Welcome back, everybody. I thought I would start this video off by showing you that I am down almost 50% in one of my trades, and this is the master short that I tried to call the BNB USDT short. I'm down 50%, and I'm going to tell you guys what I'm going to do to get back out of this. So before we begin, a little bit about myself. I have become a full-time trader. I basically flipped 3K to 20, and now I'm on my journey to flip 20 to 75. You can see more about this story over here on my pinned tweet on my Twitter. Here's my Twitter tag. It's Dr. Crypto. And then also, just to remind you guys, the first 100 subscribers that subscribe to my YouTube channel enter for a chance to win $100 in USDT. So if you subscribe, that is an entry. So make sure you hit that like button and you subscribe today. The sooner I get to 100, the sooner I will be able to draw the names that can potentially win. So let's go over the prices. The first thing I want to talk about is Bitcoin. So Bitcoin to USD. If you look here, and if you've been a member of my channel for a few days now, this is the trend line I've been drawing, the resistance, and I do have a bearish outlook on the market right now. One of the things I wanted to point out about the weekly candle is that we have about 4 hours left on my time zone. I don't know how much time will be left when I upload this, but about 4 hours left before this closes. Now this candle does have a potential to close very bearish, and it's called a shooting star. So a shooting star, basically on an uptrend, if you have a shooting star candle, that can be the initiation of a downtrend. And you can see here for the past, I would say, maybe four weeks, we've been kind of headed up in a slight manner. I mean, it's nothing crazy, nothing like how the SPY rallies, but we do have some uptrend that might reverse here. This might be the start of another capitulation event or a move down. The last time we had a move down that was pretty massive on the weekly was here, and it was the FTX debacle. That was down about 28% on the week. So let's dive in onto the daily, kind of the smaller time frame, more of an immediate short-term thing. So if you look here, we've been hanging out in the same area, and the bottom of the bull flag is still the resistance that we're testing, and the more we test and get rejected, the more likely we'll actually go down. And then right here, these two candlesticks are holding as good support. So we'll see how this daily closes. One thing that you can argue in the bull case is that we do have an RSI that's kind of oversold on the 4 hour. And it's trying to creep up. So we'll see where that goes. Now let's take a look at Ethereum, and it's kind of almost the same analysis. So you can see here, and remember, this is no man's land. I wouldn't trade it either way. With Ethereum, it is kind of hanging on to the support a little bit better. We might range in here for a bit. But the thing with Ethereum, so I would like to point out, is you have a potential good buy region here at 1,099, maybe for a small bounce. So if we do come down here, you can maybe double bottom and bounce, so you can trade that. And another thing I'd like to point out is another resistance up here, which if we do, so it's a 50-50, I think, if we go down. But if we go up and we break through here, I would definitely enter another short here and basically play this range. Okay, because this range is actually how you make profits. When you establish a support and resistance, it makes it a lot easier for yourself to basically play the range and make some money. Now let's take a look at my short. So I did go over basically my P&L. Oh, so I'm back down to 43%, so it's probably headed down. Let's talk about BNB. So I am down on this short. I did warn you guys, so if we do enter a short in BNB, or I'm entering this short basically, and I know that this is basically a gamble off of the news. And so this is another reason why you shouldn't trade the news. You should always trade TA, because you'll probably end up losing majority of the time. And always remember that the charts are more factual than even your own intuition. So if your gut is telling you, hey, I think this is going to go down because I saw it happen to FTX, scratch that thought process, because most of the time that doesn't work. So if you look here on the weekly, one thing I noticed on the weekly, actually right off the bat, is that we have two higher highs on BNB. So this is a downtrend. We kind of go up, and we come down. We're making a higher low. I'm sorry, it's a higher low. So that's one thing to consider if the weekly closes above that. Another thing on the daily is we had a nice little wick, kind of oversold on the RSI, and we popped up a little bit. We are hitting a key resistance on the weekly, and I drew that line, but I didn't even tell you guys what it is. So this is a weekly, this is a long-standing support that's finally been broken. So technically, this would be a really good place to enter a short because you're retesting it. But if it fails, you're going to see a massive move to the upside. So this is something that you could either wait on confirmation or just kind of hang out and watch from the sidelines. One thing I'd like to point out though is that if we get a breakdown, the targets are basically here at $49, and we might get a small bounce here if we don't rip through this support zone around 150. One thing I'd like to comment though is that in a bear market, any company that survives basically contagion is going to be the new market makers of the future. So, for example, BNB, if they do withstand the FUD, this is actually a very good sign for the company. That means that they survived the worst that can come to it, and if they're really not insolvent, then it's probably a really good company to invest in. They are worth 40 billion, and we've seen massive companies just go straight to zero in the past. That includes Celsius and that includes FTX. So I wouldn't be surprised if BNB comes down. However, if the upside is huge, if they do survive this. Now I am in a short, and I think I'm just going to stick with it because this is basically a gamble off the news. I'm not putting too much into the short. So if I lose it, I lose it. I understand that this is just basically a gamble. Now let's move on. So some of my followers on Twitter requested that I go over DOT and REN. So let's take a look at DOT on the weekly. And as you can see here, we're massively oversold on the weekly. Okay? And we've just been being hammered on the weekly, and the trend is down. And I think that as long as Bitcoin is headed down, we can expect the same for alts, but with larger percentage. So if we have like a 10 to 15% move on Bitcoin, you're expecting actually more bleeding for the alts. So for DOT, for example, I can clearly see that we have a nice support here. So we might wick below it, but around that $4 range, $4.10 range, you can expect a bounce. If you look at the daily, we are holding on to this support right here. And if this trend line breaks, that means that your next buy opportunity is around that $4 mark. We are almost oversold on the RSI on the daily. Let's look at the 4-hour. And the 4-hour has actually a potential double bottom. So we have a bullish RSI, and then we have a higher low. So this could be a potential double bottom. But the thing with the bear market is there's a bunch of fake outs that look like a bullish continuation up, but it's actually basically consolidation before the continuation of the downtrend. So when it comes to the bear market, you're actually more likely to just trade the trend and make more money off of it. And so the trend is your friend all the way to the end. And you want to just basically look for short setups. And that's how you make money in the bear market. So if you look here, we may just consolidate a little more. And then if it does bounce up here, this would actually be a very great opportunity to short and then follow the downtrend. That is my opinion on this. If that was to trade it, I would do that. But I'm not recommending you guys do, whatever you believe in. The safest thing to do actually is to spot buy something so that you actually own it. And then you don't get margin called. But I typically trade with margin. And so there is a chance of liquidation, and when that is a risk in itself. So it's all about risk management, what your outlook is in your time frame. Right now, I'm strictly looking at it in a pure trading perspective where I want to get in and get out and basically just make money. And so the less you trade and the more you trade the trend, the more likely you are to mitigate the risk. And so this is one of those situations where an alt can actually crash and burn if Bitcoin just decides to go down. So even if we're oversold, the alt will do what it wants to do and it can just basically head down if it wants to. And the technicals don't really matter. Okay, let's take a look at Ren. So let's look at the weekly. So this is my analysis on DOT. So DOT, I'm not necessarily saying, I think that we're headed down on DOT, unfortunately. I think we're going to touch these lows, $4.10. That's a great buying opportunity. Okay, let's look at Ren. Ren actually, kind of the same situation, but we do have some nice support here. Maybe 10% down from actually almost 50%. Wow. Okay, let's take a look at Ren. Yep. So the next stop is 50%. Okay, this might be actually a great opportunity to short. So if this support doesn't hold and it's being retested, so this is the support we're hanging on to. And you can see that we bounced off of it a couple weeks ago. Nicely bounced off of it. Now we're retesting it. If we close this week below this support, you can expect Ren to go all the way down to 3 cents. This is a 50% drop. Okay, now let's look at the 1 day. And one thing to argue for the bearish case is that Bitcoin is likely to go down, so these are likely to go down as well. Now, you want to look for a really good short setup. So look at this daily. We have about, okay, look at this. We have about a 20% move to the upside potential swing. So if this support holds, we might hang out here for a couple days. We have a little bit of more room on the RSI before we head down. If we do head up here, I think I'm going to short it. I'm going to short it up here at this 89, 88 cents. And it depends on your exchange and if they have it on margins or not or whatnot. But this looks like we're going to retest these highs. If we don't retest these highs, we're going straight down to this 3 cent level. And so that's my analysis on Ren. Let's look at the 4 hour, the immediate short term. We do have some bullish divergence. Might get some uptick to the 0.078 cents. But this is a very strong resistance. We have consolidation up here, right here. So the common trend with my analysis is I do a top-down approach. So I look at the weekly. It's very possible we come down here. We're hanging out here. Then I dissect the immediate short term. And I establish my highs and lows. That's pretty much it for my cryptocurrencies. One of the things I wanted to talk about was the SPY. Now, a lot of Bitcoin maxis, this includes myself, believe that Bitcoin is superior to stocks. However, you have to be realistic. Now, the thing with stocks is Bitcoin does follow risk. It's still classified as a risk asset. It follows what basically stocks do. And so we have the opening tomorrow, and now one thing we can establish is this downtrend and clear rejection on the weekly on the SPY. If you look at it on the daily though, we do have a gap that has a potential to be filled. So we might come back up here, fill the gap, and come back down. So these gaps are important key places in stocks and futures where the price action moves way too fast for it to be filled, and so eventually it will be filled. And so I think that we might have some uptick next week, beginning of next week. We might come up here to these 39 levels, and then we'll come all the way crashing down. I think next week might be a bearish week, and the reason being is if you look at the weekly candle, that as well is a clear sign of a rejection. So look at this. This is a clear rejection off the resistance that we have up here. And so always remember that even if we do get a 10 to 15% bounce, that the trend is your friend. So you look at the trend. If you enter a short and you feel like you're going to crash and burn, you can almost rely on this downtrend and say, you know what, it's fine if I sit negative for a bit. I'll move my stops a little bit higher just so I can get that continuation. Now let's go back to my pinned tweet. I was actually sitting in this short at 12:45, and I was sitting in a negative P&L. And it's only a real loss if you get margin called or if you take profits. I mean, if you sell at a loss. And so I always give myself room with leverage, and then I always trust the trend and trust the resistances. Even if it looks like it might be the start of the bull market, you want to trust the trend. Now, trying to spot a reversal is very hard, but that's kind of the theme here. Another thing I'd like to point out, so Bitcoin, as we're approaching the close, we have about 4 hours left. The weekly looks like this, right? We have a shooting star candle. Shout out to P-Note. So P-Note posts these liquidation zones, and it kind of gives you a hint of where the price will be hunted. And so he posts these in different time frames, and the one that I'm interested specifically are the 7-day, the 12-hour, and the zoomed in 12-hour. So let's look at that. And go ahead and give him a follow. He posts these almost every day and about every hour unless he's sleeping, and he'll update you on basically where the prices will be hunted. And so if we look at it here, this is the 7-day outlook of potential liquidations that the price will hunt. And you can look here. Here is, so the brighter the color, the yellow, it reflects the amount of money that can be potentially liquidated. And so all these longs hanging out between 16.5 to 16 flat, there's about $3 billion worth of longs that have the potential to be liquidated. So I think that in a 1 week time frame, we are headed down. But if you zoom in on the 12-hour, I would say it's a 50-50 in the immediate short term. We don't really know where we're going to go. We might bounce up and then wick down. And then if we zoom in even more on the 12-hour time frame, it's a 50-50 call. So that's why I wanted to repeat that you have to be patient and you have to wait for the price action to come to you, and then you trade it. So I wouldn't trade anything today just because I don't know where we're going. And then another thing I wanted to show you guys is if you look here, this is also provided by P-Note. He posts the amount of short liquidations that can be potentially liquidated versus the total longs. And this is basically a graph that basically depicts this in a visual manner. But we have almost over 500 potential short liquidations to the upside. So I wouldn't be surprised if we move up just a tad bit before we head back down. Same thing goes for Ethereum. We have around 400 potential liquidations to the upside before we head down. And so that's pretty much my analysis. This one's a bit longer because the weekly candle's going to close. And I think that is a very important marker of where pretty much you summarize the whole week's price action into one candle. And you can basically say it's bearish on Bitcoin. And then the same thing goes for the SPY. You can say that was a very bearish close for the SPY. Now, that's pretty much it for my analysis. Ethereum, you can say the same thing. Bitcoin, BNB on the other hand, like I said, I entered the short way too early. And I was willing to lose basically this position just because I took it as a gamble. We are testing this crucial $250 range. And that's something to keep in mind. So I'll keep you guys updated with my trade. You can see right now I'm sitting in really bad P&L. And I'm going to ride this all the way to liquidation. That's pretty much it for my analysis. If you guys have any questions or concerns, you can always comment down below on my YouTube channel. And please, please don't forget, if you're watching these videos, you can always subscribe to my YouTube channel. And you'll just if you subscribe, you enter a chance to win for 100 USDT. The sooner I get to 100 subscribers, the sooner I'll give this money away. So I'm very excited for what's going to come in this next week. And if you do have any trades that you feel like you want to share with me, I'll go ahead and tag me in them on Twitter, and I'll retweet it and show you guys, or show it off to the people. So yeah, transparency is key. I am here sitting in negative, and this is kind of my review of the market right now. So if you have any questions, please comment down below. Appreciate your time, and you guys have a good one. Thank you.